Rockinitis.
Oh, baby, baby, when I heard that beat, the Rockinitis just moved my feet. Yeah. Doctor to see what's wrong. He said,
hi, cats and kittens. Welcome to Rockinitis. My name is Michael Wilmore. And I have a special guest here, Aaron Chapman, who is an author, mainly on musical subjects.
That's right.
Or
yes.
on rock and roll culture.
A little bit, yes,
yeah.
Michael. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
I want to discuss the book, the second book that you wrote.
Yes.
Which is live at the Commodore. And I really like the inscription you have written on here, which says, I have Rockinitis and I need to see a doctor about it. Enjoy the book. So I'd like to display that.
Ah, excellent.
Anyway, this is a really good, my best friend, this is a really good book. My best friend got it for Christmas.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So he wants to discuss it all the time.
Well, that's good. It was a very fun book to write. I'm surprised actually no one had beaten me to it, to write a Commodore, because it seems like a natural thing. Just like the Penthouse nightclub, it's sort of one of those places that everybody knows in Vancouver and is stacked with stories and history to it.
No, it's funny, but the kind of things that my mother and father went to ceased to exist after a time.
Yeah.
And so they never went there anymore because it wasn't providing music that appealed to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it totally changed. Around when would it have started incorporating rock and roll acts?
Well, it was around when Drew Burns took over, and Drew Burns was the sort of famous proprietor, showman, impresario of the Commodore, and he took over around 69, 70. And prior to that, it had been like you say, sort of for a generation of older people, and you weren't necessarily, this is the interesting thing, you weren't going to see necessarily the band there. We always think, well, we go to the Commodore to see the band.
You go for the scene?
Back then, you were just going to dance.
Right.
So the house bands that were playing, people like Dow Richards, certainly in the 1960s, but going back to the 1940s, bands like Ole Olson and his Commodores.
Okay.
And Len Chamberlain and his Twinkle Toes, a great band name from the 1940s as well. Those are the bands playing there. So you were just hearing the songs of the day, the popular tunes and whatnot to dance to. What you weren't necessarily going to see that act play. And that changed, when bands became a little bit more, bands became bands. And you could almost sort of pull the slingshot back, going from Elvis and the Beatles, because the people that got into that then started listening to bands, started forming their own bands. Within a few years, the wave of bands started happening in nightclubs. And it all gets sort of pulled back from around that sort of time in the 50s. That sets up the 60s. Then the 60s are sort of, the 70s are a reaction to the 60s music, and then on and on it goes. So there's a real domino that you can see sort of get knocked over.
You can see the evolution of music through the Commodore presentations.
It's seen every kind of genre of music it is. There is, from the big band stuff to
punk rock
to
whatever.
Punk rock and ska and 80s new wave stuff, and then into grunge in the 90s, and then DJ music, and then stuff happening today. It's incredible. So.
I knew that when we were going to be doing this show, I started thinking about all the different acts that I've seen at the Commodore, and I lost count at about 50. I've seen maybe 50 to 75 groups there, and I've probably been there like 60 times.
At least.
It seemed like it was like a presentation venue where anything at all that you were interested in would eventually play the Commodore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And one of the best acts I saw there was Blondie.
Oh, wow.
And that was a lot of fun. I had my picture taken with her actually later at the River Rock.
Okay, yeah.
And I met her and all that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool. So let's hear a couple of tracks here by Blondie. This one is Rapture, which was the first time I knew what I'd heard about rap music.
Right.
But this was the first time I ever heard a commercial version of it and reference to it, because she actually talks in it. and so forth.
One of the pioneering rap tracks ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It sort of clued the general public
Yeah.
into what rap music
Exactly.
about.
Yeah.
So here's Blondie with Rapture.
Fab Five Freddy told me everybody's fly. DJ spinning, I said, my. Flash is fast, flash is cool. Francois, c'est pas, flash ain't no do. And you don't stop, shoot shot. Go out to the parking lot and you get in your car and drive real far. And you drive all night and then you see a light and it comes right down and lands on the ground. And out comes a man from Mars. And you try to run, but you got a gun. And he shoots you dead and he eats your head. And then you're in the man from Mars. You go out at night. Cars, you eat Cadillacs, Lincolns too, Mercuries and Subaru, and you don't stop, you keep on eating cars. Then, when there's no more cars, you go out at night and eat up bars where the people
That's Blondie with Rapture and Sunday Girl. And Blondie, I just love her. I've got a friend, actually, I've tried to turn him on to Blondie, but he says, I don't know, I don't get it. I says, why? He says, they're too plastic. I says, plastic?
Jeez.
They're playing live music. I
Yeah.
mean, they actually sound like they sound on the record when you see them live.
Yeah.
So how is that plastic?
Strange.
I mean, it's a live band. I can see somebody wanting to hear a live band over a produced item,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
which I think what I think it is he's had a cursory kind of view of it where he's heard a couple of things on the radio and that sounds plastic to him because
Right.
it sounds like it's overproduced.
Right.
So therefore he loses interest in anything else by them.
Probably.
But anyway, I think they're great.
They're great. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And one of the great unsung drummers, Clem Burke.
Oh, yeah?
Who's a huge Keith Moon fan.
Oh, yeah.
And man, he can go off when he wants to go there. Great drummer. Great drummer.
Anyway, we've seen wonderful things at the Commodore over the years. One of the groups one of the guys that I've seen, I've never heard of him in my life, but at work, we had a free ticket giveaway, which means they didn't sell worth a toot. They had the Peter Green, that kind of splinter group that he had later.
Oh yeah.
When he was Peter Green had mental trouble and all that kind of stuff, so he was kind of like off in some kind of other zone.
Yeah.
Okay, now Peter Green wasn't so great, I've got to say. He'd put on an enormous amount of weight and he was spaced out. And when he would be playing a solo, he'd suddenly stop and kind of go. And the other guy with him, who was second guitarist, he would see Peter Green had zoned out.
Right.
So he would immediately take over the guitar solo.
Wow.
And it worked to a point, but I wasn't impressed. It was like he's far past.
Not one of his best shows.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's far past his heyday.
I think he's doing better now.
Okay.
I've heard he's doing better.
Well,
now.
he's a paranoid schizophrenic.
Yeah.
So his sister recognized this and kind of got him in treatment.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, the guy that was the warm-up act, I'd never heard of him in my life.
Right.
His name was Harry Manx.
Oh, brilliant.
And anyway, he lives on Salt Spring Island. And he actually was originally born in England, but he moved to Canada and to Toronto when he was 6.
Right.
So ever since then, he's resided in Canada, and he tours the world
He's
and so
amazing.
forth. Lives in Salt Spring Island. I'd never heard of him before, and I saw him and met him at the Commodore. So I was highly impressed. Very bluesy. He does the blues.
But mixes it a little bit with some Eastern influences.
Yeah, well, he does the blues, but he plays the vina and the sitar and various things.
Yeah.
He's got a chrome guitar that's actually an East Indian instrument.
Yeah.
So it's got it's like exotic blues.
It is. Yeah.
And anyway, I'm highly impressed with the guy, and I want you all to listen to him.
And he's a Manx cat. He doesn't have a tail either.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, Harry Manx, he was the sound man at the El Macombo Club
Was he
in
really?
Toronto. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he's been in music virtually his whole life.
Amazing.
But
He's an amazing player.
as a performer, He performed at the Commodore. First time I'd ever seen him. I met him afterwards. Yeah, I think he had 2 CDs out at the time.
Right.
I bought them both.
Yeah.
Shook his hand, met him.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, here's Harry Manx with "Bring That Thing," which is a mixture of blues and East Indian mythos.
You swore off vice and habit, trying to save your face, but need some loving, girl. No, no, I have it just to decorate your place. Dog, my cat, can't you scratch that itch? Well, things were so much more simple when we didn't have a stitch. Bring that thing, oh, back home. Bring that thing. Well, they say nothing ventured, oh, ain't nothing gained. You gave it all, baby, Lord, still they complain. Will you trust it? Got busted. Lord, you damn near went insane, but you keep on driving, Lord, through the wind and the rain.
That's Harry Manx, and you know, like you just said, he's so good. I mean, he plays East Indian instruments with a blues panache or whatever.
Slide guitar.
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. Anyway,
Delta.
he's such an intimate performer too, and he's a great storyteller. He lives on Salt Spring Island, which is the same place that Blondie lives on.
That's right.
So half of the
Must
one
be full of musicians. It's just
Yeah.
You got to be a musician to live on the island, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, so he tells this story about how he went down to the local gift shop at the harbor entrance, and he says, so I went down there and I had to, because he says I always leave my Christmas shopping till the last day. So he says it was the day before Christmas, so I go down there to buy my wife a Christmas present, and he says, and who comes in but Valdi? He says, now I don't really associate with Valdi. He goes, so here I am trapped between aisle 7 and aisle 6. And he says, and I hid in there. Valdi came in and started playing, he walks in playing this guitar, singing Christmas songs. And he says, and I was trapped there, and I had to listen to the whole performance. And anyways, he tells his story he was a great storyteller, and he kind of, you know, he was injecting a note of jealousy in there.
Sure, yeah.
Like Valdi is kind of a little higher on the echelon than him.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, he's a wonderful performer, wonderful storyteller, and I just love him, and I've seen him about 5 times.
Yeah, I've never seen him live. I want to see him live.
No, he's really good.
Yeah, I've always liked him. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, he's got a lot of CDs out now, and I highly recommend seeing him. Harry Manx. So anyway, we're talking about different acts that have appeared at the Commodore, and you're going to have to give me a minute, because I want to find the article that I wrote in the Vancouver Sun on Muddy Waters.
Yeah.
Just give me a minute.
All right. Gonna have a sip.
Oh, here it is. Okay, now I don't know if this is going to pick up a lot of glare. I've got it.
Okay there.
Yeah, does that look good?
Yeah.
Okay, can you give me a close-up on that? Anyway, so I wrote this article in the Vancouver Sun on Muddy Waters, and ticket sales had been kind of mediocre.
Right.
And I'm bringing this up because I'm also a writer, as well as a lot of things.
Yeah.
But anyways, I wrote this article on Muddy Waters, and ticket sales had been kind of mediocre. Then I wrote this article, which came out about 3 or 4 days before Muddy Waters played the Commodore.
Show, yeah.
And all of a sudden, ticket sales skyrocketed, and there was lineups around the block.
Wow.
So I know the impact that writing in the local media can have.
Yeah.
You know, so I saw Muddy Waters. He was absolutely wonderful.
I bet.
And you know, it's one of those things like Lightning Hopkins or some of these acts that I've seen over the years. It sticks in your mind decades later. So I saw Muddy Waters at the Commodore. Here's a couple of live tracks by Muddy Waters. Hoochie Coochie Man, Got My Mojo Working, a couple of the biggest tracks ever by Muddy Waters. But these are live recordings from the 70s, and it approximates the way he was when I saw him at the Commodore.
Yeah.
Muddy Waters.
The gypsy woman told my mother before I was born, you got a boy child coming, gonna be a son of a gun, gonna make pretty women jump and shout. Then the world wanna know what this all about, but you know I'm here. Everybody knows I'm here. Well, you know I'm the hoochie coochie man. Just don't worry on you. Got my mojo working, buddy. Just don't worry on you. I wanna love you so bad till I don't know.
Muddy Waters Blues Band, and all the different configurations of the band over the years have been stellar. There was a point there where we had a guy called Paul Osher, I think his name was, that was a white player. And because of my views on what the blues is about and all that, I had trouble accepting the fact that this white guy, you know...
He was playing in Muddy's band?
Yeah, playing in Muddy's band, playing harmonica, which was, you know, formerly it had been, you know, Little Walter or somebody like that, some legendary guy, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you got this white guy there, and I kind of went, he's selling out. You know, it's like it didn't fit. But anyways, Muddy was fabulous, and we're never going to have this kind of music again. His music died with him.
Yeah.
I mean, he basically, this is not going to live on. The Chicago blues, which is basically something that Muddy virtually invented.
Yeah.
He's to blues what Bill. What's the bluegrass guy? Bill, I can't remember the guy's name.
Oh, okay.
Bill Monroe. Bill Monroe.
Oh, Bill Monroe.
Yeah, okay, no, Bill Monroe is to bluegrass what
for
Muddy
sure.
Waters
Definitely.
is to blues.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
He's like
exactly.
the figurehead of it. Anyway, we're discussing the Commodore, different acts that we've seen over the years. And I have to say that the highlight of all the bands I've seen at the Commodore, which must be like somewhere between 50 and 75, I can't even remember how many bands I've seen there.
I think it's more than that, Michael. I think you're being conservative for that number.
A lot of bands.
Yeah.
Anyway, the guys that really impressed the hell out of me was Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band.
Oh, unbelievable.
Now, this is the original Magic Band with, or the band that you think of when you think of the Captain Beefheart Band, the Magic Band.
Right.
You think of the Zoot Horn Rollo Band.
Exactly.
With him, the fabulous guitarist.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was at the show, and I took my tape recorder, and I had it under my jacket.
Now, there were two shows. Were you at the first night or the second?
Second.
Second. Okay.
Now, the the first show was, I think it was Thursday and Friday night. Is that right?
Sounds right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the first show has actually come out on a CD at the Commodore.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, it's a terrible album because the sound is so awful.
Right.
Anyway, my recording of it, I had the tape recorder under my jacket and the microphone like this, and I was standing there like a statue recording it.
Did security stop you? Did
No,
he see
this
you?
guy comes up to me and says, "Are you recording this?" And I felt like saying, "Piss off."
Yeah.
You know, like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm recording him now.
Right.
So he comes up and says, "Are you recording this?" He says, "Do you have permission to do this?" And I felt like, get out of here.
Yeah, yeah. What did you do?
Anyway, I just continued recording, but I never spoke to him. I didn't want.
You didn't want to be in the recording.
Right.
See, you were, yeah.
Anyway, so I taped the whole thing, but when I was taping it, it had a 3-prong plug
Right.
on the microphone, and it was in the dark, and I was trying to plug it into the side of the recorder, and I only got 2 of the prongs in. The other prong kind of went outside the recorder,
Right.
so I only recorded it on the left channel.
Oh, wow.
So I had a mono recording of it.
Right.
So in my
Well, the Beatles in mono was very good. So was
in
this
my
any good?
brainiac mode, I thought afterwards when I thought this is all on the left channel. How did that happen? So then I realized what I'd done.
What you'd done, yeah.
So anyway, I decided, well, I don't really want to have the cassette, which was what it was on, with only one channel recorded. So I'll redub it to reel, which is what I did.
Right.
So Gary Barkley, who was a DJ at CFMI or something at the time, he interviewed Captain Beefheart. So he was highly impressed that I had the whole concert on cassette, even though it was left channel.
Right.
So he said, "I'll trade you the interview I did
Oh, I
for
see.
the live recording." So I explained to him what I just said.
Yes.
So he said, "You erased the master?" I said, "Yeah, I guess I did. I never really thought of it that way."
Yeah.
But I transferred it to reel.
Right.
So even though I screwed it all up by doing this, it still sounds better than this damn album.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Well,
So
maybe you
and-
should release it on Rockinitis Records.
Well, no, it's. But anyway, it's kind of a shame that I kind of buggered it up. But this is my early days when I didn't.
Sure.
know,
Well, who knew?
When I didn't know.
Who knew any
anything.
of this stuff would be valuable and
Yeah.
interesting 40 years later?
Anyway, it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen hundreds of bands.
Everybody talks about that show as being one of the most
No, it
memorable,
was fabulous.
amazing
It
nights.
was during the Clear Spot period, which that is his most accessible album.
Right.
It's the album that I recommend anybody that wants to get into Beefheart, start with this album because it's so accessible.
Yeah.
It's got wonderful songs on it, and he performed them live, and it was like they were like so completely demented.
Yes.
I mean, the drummer, Drumbo, he had pigtails on the top of his head,
Right.
like they came out like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And dressed so crazy.
Anyway, he played the drums like this.
Yeah.
You know, he looked absolutely demented. His drums were like baseball bats. Anyway, they were, okay, you take a group like, say, the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Okay, they've got a patented loping quality. Like when you listen to them, they have a loping quality.
Yeah.
Okay, you listen to Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band, they have a lurching quality.
That's well put. Yeah, I think so.
Fast goes fast, slow goes slow. All right, now do the low, yo, 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 yo. Now do the low, yo, 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 yo. Like that girl standing on the corner, trying to get a ride to the other side. When way down underneath, all she had to do was move her pretty feet and do the low, yo, 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 yo.
One of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And here's the title track from the Clear Spot album, Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band.
I have to run so far to find a
sun's all hot and a rotten hot. Swamps all rotten and stinking. Vegetation's hot. Sleeping in a bayou on a old rotten cot. Can't find my kind of folks having fun. I have to run, 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 run to find her. I look at her and she looks at me. In her eyes I see the sea. I don't see what she sees in a man like me. She says she loves me. Her eyes, yeah, her eyes. Her eyes are a blue million miles. Far as I can see, she loves me.
Captain Beefheart and his magic band, and
So good.
he had a kind of a hold over his band where he basically browbeat them, or he basically hovered over them to the point it was almost like a Charlie Manson grip.
Those stories I've read, you've read the same ones, obviously. Yeah, it's incredible to hear. They did these sort of, they would just ensconce themselves in this house they had.
Yes,
And rehearse for 18 hours a day.
yes,
You know, months and months on end.
Yes.
And you know, the captain decided when people could eat, when and when people could leave the house, and when they could you know.
Well,
it
he
was incredible.
he obviously filled them with vindictiveness because on several occasions the entire band quit
Right.
just before a major event.
Right.
Like he was booked to play the Monterey Pop Festival, and the entire band quit
Walked
2
out.
days before the festival. Then they're booked on a tour of Europe. The entire band quits 3 or 4 days before the tour. So he had to go phoning around to the musicians union
Right.
to pick up new guys.
Yeah.
So that live album that's done in Europe, it's not the Magic Band, it's the Tragic Band. You know, he's over there in Europe with a bunch of guys that never even met him prior to the
and
week
reading
that
off
they're there.
charts and just trying to figure out. My
So
God,
they
who this
kind of
guy
like
is.
they
Yeah.
sound so rudimentary
Oh,
and stuff.
wow.
Anyway, he trained them. The original Magic Band was Zoot Horn Rollo, etc. He trained them to such a degree that they were kind of like reflections of him.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's there's all kinds of mythology. He was an avant-garde rock player, rock singer, blah blah blah, and I think he's just amazing and wonderful, and he is a true rock and roll genius.
Yeah, and still ahead of his time in many ways. You
Yes.
know, like
Oh, yeah.
People, it's not as though people have caught up, I think, to what he's doing yet.
Yes.
You know, like Jimi Hendrix still has a little bit of that. Some of that stuff is still not exactly mainstream, whereas a lot of other classic rock bands of that era
No, he
are
has
part
a-
of the lore now. But the Captain is so still far ahead.
No, I know.
It might take another 100 years for us to figure out what he's doing. I think. Yeah.
Rockinitis.
Oh, baby, baby, when I heard